Erin gets the handoff right side, 15-10. Alvin to the outside, 5. Touchdown, Alvin Kamara! Shuck escapes it, 20, 15-10. Shuck is going to get his second rushing touchdown of the game. Scatterbrain, ball's loose. Saints picked it up. That's Jordan, 30, 40. Jordan Howden, touchdown, Saints.
The Saints ended the season 4-1, going undefeated in December, building momentum towards next season. Welcome to Saints All Access, presented by Microsoft Copilot plus PC, right here on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, alongside Locked On Saints host Ross Jackson. I'm Erin Summers. This season, we had so many question marks coming in, and I am happy to say I think those question marks were answered.
Oh yeah, especially the biggest ones, right? The biggest ones that this team absolutely needed to answer all throughout the offseason: head coach, quarterback. And I think one of the biggest reasons for optimism right now is the Saints appear to, at this point, have hit on both. And that's a huge piece of the formula for success moving forward.
When you look at first-year head coach Kellen Moore, it was his first year as a head coach ever.
Yeah.
There was a lot of wonder of what that was going to look like. How did you see him evolve as the season went on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as you kind of watch the season go on, you saw him get a little bit more comfortable in terms of things like game management, game situations, using timeouts at the end of halves, at the ends of games, things like that. Got a little bit more comfortable with challenges towards the end as well, started winning those towards the end. But I think one of the biggest things that you really saw from him that I think is maybe the most important building block moving forward was his offensive system starting to come to life. He did a fantastic job scheming up wide receivers, finding ways to work wide receivers open. It worked out great for Chris Olave, obviously worked out great for Tyler Shuck late in the season as well. And so I think those three things to me were the biggest highlights of growth that you saw from him from week 1 through week 18.
When you talk to the players, they seemed like they really enjoyed working with Kellen Moore as well. We didn't get to see a ton of personality from him, but whatever he did bring to the meeting rooms, the locker room, the players definitely responded to. Here is General Manager Mickey Loomis on Kellen Moore.
I haven't thought about it in that term, but listen, I think he's done an excellent job, and under some really difficult circumstances. You know, we hired Kellen under a set of circumstances relative to the quarterback, and then that changed dramatically. And man, he didn't bat an eye. Just, okay, what's the next step that we have to do, and how do we attack it? And that was impressive right from the beginning. And then during the course of the season, obviously there's circumstances and things that come up during the course of the year that you can think you're prepared for, but you're really not, because you haven't been put in that position. And I think in virtually every case, he handled it really well, and so that's been exciting to see.
The Saints started the season with quarterback Spencer Rattler, who in his 8 starts went 1-7. It was that Week 8 game against the Bucs where rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck took over. He ended up going 5-4 in his starts, and he was named NFL Rookie of the Month, Offensive Rookie of the Month, the month of December, because he took the team to a 4-0 record in that month. What stood out to you about his play as the season went on?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was how effective he was downfield in a season where the downfield game was being taken away by NFL defenses. In 2025, there were only 68 300-plus yard passing games. That's down from 132 going back to just 2020, so nearly half as much by then, and it's the least over the course of five seasons. And so I think for me, the thing that impressed me about him was that he wasn't afraid to go after those defenses that are built to take away the deep shot, and how successful he was doing that along with Kellen Moore's offense.
He seemed like as the season went on, he gained more confidence in the pocket. He was able to manage the game a little bit better. He used his legs more. He was working with a depleted roster, a lot of different players that he didn't have a lot of time on task with. So I think that stands out as well, as his ability to make those around him better. Yeah,
absolutely. You saw him elevate the game. And I'll tell you one other thing that I loved about watching Tyler throughout the season. As he got more comfortable, you saw a little bit of the swagger come out.
Yeah.
You saw a little bit of the attitude. You saw a little bit of that. And of course, the city of New Orleans loves that. So it's a great way to not only go out there and, play the mind game a little bit against your opponent, but deepen that relationship with the community, because a lot of folks around this city and beyond in terms of this fan base love seeing that from especially a rookie quarterback getting started.
Absolutely. And he is somebody that's going to be staying here in New Orleans throughout the offseason, really diving into the fan base and that culture aspect. So the fans are going to love that. Here is head coach Kellen Moore on his rookie quarterback.
I thought his ability to respond to some adverse situations, I think, was a really good indication of his ability to play football at a really high level in this league. And, when you throw an interception in Miami, you respond and play really good football in the second half and give yourself opportunities and then respond again the next week, at Tampa, in really rainy, challenging conditions and run the football for some big-time plays. He just did a really good job of getting better.
It was hard for the Saints offense to establish a rhythm with the changes in quarterbacks, the trades to some very important pieces on this team, and then injuries as the season went on. Ross, what was your evaluation of the offense considering all of the moving parts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give a high level B grade to the team for managing and being able to pull off that it was only the third time in the franchise's career in which they went undefeated in December. And they did that with so many missing pieces, whether it be the pieces that were traded away or the pieces that they lost due to injury. I think they did a very good job managing it, certainly better than what we saw last year where the injuries started to kind of plague this team to the point of a 7-game losing streak. So I think they managed the attrition much better here in 2025.
When you look at the defense, clear improvement as the season went on.
Oh, yeah.
Last 8 games of the season, they were only averaging an allowed 17.5 points per game, which is huge. I mean, you're keeping teams under 20, then you're giving your offense an opportunity, your team an opportunity to win the game. Yeah. They're making big plays as well, not only limiting the other team, but they were scoring points themselves. So it was really fun to watch. How did you see Brandon Staley start to really implement his defensive scheme over the season to where they were clicking the way they were?
Yeah, I think you saw the implementation of the system very early, right? The stand-up pass rushers, the odd fronts in terms of having 5 on the defensive line instead of 4. And then the coverages were very different as well. It was a lot of stand back, watch the quarterback, and be able to try to make plays based off of that rather than the old way that we saw this defense play, or the most recent way we saw this defense play, which was a lot of man-to-man coverage. I think one of the biggest improvements that they made was as a run defense, not where they'd like to be, I'm sure, still middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, but per attempt, top 10 in the NFL, despite being 31st in that same metric last year. So you saw this team make great strides defensively. Brandon Staley's system putting those players in position to succeed, all the way down to Chase Young making what I think might be one of the best plays that we've seen from a New Orleans Saints defender, taking the ball away from Cam Ward and running it in all in one fell swoop.
Yes, it was an amazing play, and why we're going to continue to talk about Chase Young in just a little while. But first, we'll get head coach Kellen Moore's thoughts on his defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley.
Brandon's done a phenomenal job for us. Obviously, my experience with him in the past was a great resource, with our opportunity to team up together in Los Angeles for that 1 year. And so I thought Brandon did an excellent job of working with a staff that obviously, again, came from a number of different places, created an alignment, and then I thought the players and the coaches had a really good combination of buy-in and working really well together.
What is building here is something to be really excited about. And even though we're seeing the production from players that may be on the end of their career, we have a lot of young players to be excited about too. And that's what we're going to talk about on the other side of this break. So stay with us right here on Saints All Access. We'll be right back after this timeout. Welcome back to Saints All Access, presented by Microsoft Copilot Plus PC, alongside Ross Jackson. Erin Summers here. We've talked a lot about quarterback Tyler Shuck in his rookie season and what he's been able to accomplish. And we're going to have to hit it again because of how impressive it was. 11 games, 9 starts. He completed 221 of 327 passes, 2,384 yards, 10 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. His passer rating, 91.3. And he nearly had a perfect passer rating in one of his games. Yeah. Very impressive, leading that rookie class this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that was most impressive about watching him were his performance in clutch situations. Big time players got to make big plays in big moments. And you saw that a lot from Tyler Shuck. Had a 111.6 passer rating on third down alone, and it was one of the best, I think actually the best passer rating amongst quarterbacks that had at least 80 passing attempts throughout the 2025 season. And he also had the second highest completion percentage amongst that same group of quarterbacks as well on third downs, and then had the most yards most fourth quarter passing yards per game as well in those games. I mean, just when you needed this guy to be there and help you, close the gap or extend a lead or whatever, he was there all throughout the season. That to me is one of the biggest sort of bright moments of Tyler Shuck and what the future potential might look like with him.
His ability to perform when the defense knew exactly what he's going to be doing.
Right.
He had to pass and lean into the passing game
Yep.
quite often because of the offensive line and the running back situation. And he was able to execute. So that was huge. When you go down the list of the rest of the rookies, I think you also have to highlight Kelvin Banks Jr. because he was just a staple there on the left side. And it's something that you don't think about a lot. You don't hear his name a lot, which is a good thing.
Typically a good thing. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to offensive line. 17-game starter as a rookie. He was left on an island a lot as well. When we talk about being left on an island as an offensive lineman, particularly as a tackle, it means not a lot of help. You're not getting those double teams from the guards. You're not getting those chips from the tight ends. Kelvin Banks Jr. did a lot of really good work all on his own as a rookie left tackle. Really phenomenal performance by him.
We continue to go. 'Cause all the rookies, I think, stepped
right.
up in different ways.
Yeah.
Vernon Broughton was hurt, so he didn't have
Right.
the effect that we may have seen and hopefully we'll see in the future. But you go to Devin Neal, Danny Stutzman, Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, we mentioned. Quincy Riley really stepped up
Big
when
time.
we needed him in that cornerback role. And the defense, or the offenses, they attacked him because he was that rookie out there and he held his own.
Yeah, he's got such a good, we talk about short-term memory for cornerbacks. It's really important for cornerbacks, really important for quarterbacks. And Quincy Riley coming in as a rookie, also from Louisville. He was the collegiate teammate of Tyler Shuck, really showed you that all throughout the season. He was a multi-game starter. I think the Saints had 17% of their snaps that were played in 2025 were rookie snaps. It was the 6th highest in the NFL here in 2025. And all those guys that we just mentioned got a start, with the exception of Danny Stutzman. But Danny Stutzman in the second level of the defense continued to see his snaps rise and pulled together some really big tackle highlights all throughout the season, a dominating force in the middle of that defense. I think this rookie class is very likely the best rookie class that we've seen in New Orleans since 2017, and it hit at exactly the right time.
It's really exciting what they did this year and then the potential to build next year with an entire offseason, because you don't have that really as a rookie. I mean, you're going straight from one college season to the combine, the draft, and then
you're
back in
into
training
it.
camp.
Some are doing the all-star games in between that too and stuff, like the Senior Bowl and all that. Like, it is a whirlwind for these rookies coming in. So enjoy the offseason while you're getting it here.
Here is Mickey Loomis on this year's rookie class.
I think all of us would say we're pretty excited about the group as a whole. The things that they did, sometimes under different circumstances. Kelvin coming in, moving right to left tackle. He had some really good flashes during the course of the season. Obviously, there's room for improvement. Tyler, what he's done, that's been the focal point, I think, in the media about Tyler. But what Jonas Sanker and even Devin Neal coming in, Quincy, Danny Stutzman, all these guys have really stepped up and done a great job. They've been professional about the way they've approached their craft. Even Vernon Broughton, who we didn't get a chance to see a lot of because he got hurt pretty early. I think we're excited about his prospects. Maliki at tight end, Fidel. All of them just to a man. I think we're really excited about this class and have a lot of high hopes for them going forward.
I think the important thing about that is that those guys were ready when the opportunity presented themselves, and no timelines are going to be the same. Tyler's development was a great example of that, of his willingness to get better through an entire season. Quincy kind of had an opportunity through injury to hop in there. Danny kind of was a guy that I think is a great example of just being a really talented player that we feel great about and find different roles and different opportunities where he can get on the field. And so a lot of these timelines were different, but I think it was important to see these guys play and have exposure, and I thought a lot of these guys took advantage of the opportunity.
One of the biggest unexpected twists this season happened on the special teams side of things. And when you went into the season, we were watching Blake Grupe during training camp. He only missed one kick, and it was because there was a rainstorm briefly for a couple minutes when he was kicking here in New Orleans. And then the struggles that he had going into the season, it just was unexpected.
Yeah, very. It was not at all what we expected from him when we saw a near perfect training camp. And then he comes in and has, some struggles early on. Saints try some different things to kind of help him overcome it. Just never really got over the hump in 2025.
And then the Saints go to Charlie Smith, who is your International Pathway Player Program player, and he's somebody that's been so fun to watch. He's just so excited to be here and loved getting into the game, being able to deliver on some huge kicks this season. I think the biggest question mark for him is going to lie around the consistency and his ability to hit maybe some of those short yardage kicks. But now he's locked in here as the Saints kicker.
Yeah, and what an incredible story. One of the best stories across the NFL this year. 27 months before he was an NFL kicker, he was teaching English language out in Ireland and was getting ready to go and do a master's program and all this. Then he gets his opportunity after sending an email to the NFL and taking that international pathway. Really incredible story. He knows, and he's expressed before, that he's got to get more consistent in terms of making sure that he makes some of those shorter kicks like you mentioned. But this is also a guy that missed the kick early on in one of the games, but then went on to tie the record for most field goals made in a single game by a New Orleans Saints kicker. So he's got it in there, but he'll be grinding a lot over the course of the offseason to make sure that that's a big part of his game.
Kellen Moore did speak about special teams coordinator Phil Galliano and the work that he did this season.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of moving pieces there, and so I thought a credit to Phil of kind of helping navigate that. From a punter battle, that kind of went through all of training camp. We made a change at the kicker position midway through the season. Sheed obviously with the trade, halfway through the year. So we did have a lot of moving pieces there, and so I thought I did a really good job of helping a lot of young players get ready and prepared to contribute on our football team in the special teams that we're a little bit new to that aspect of football, and so. Are there areas that we want to improve on and get better? Absolutely, and that's certainly something we'll do in all three phases.
Coming up in the next segment here on Saints All Access, we're going to take a look at the offseason, what's next, some needs that may be addressed with the draft, and some players that we are talking about re-signing potentially. We'll be right back. Back here on Saints All Access, Ross, we talked coming into the show about question marks heading into this last season that were answered. What are some of your biggest questions heading into the offseason now? Yeah,
I think some of the biggest things you're looking at are getting a run game going to better support the young quarterback. Saints finished with a bottom 5 rushing attack as a team and didn't have a single 500-yard rusher this season, which is a really surprising metric when you think about Kellen Moore's offenses in the past. 2,000-yard rusher and Saquon Barkley had some great running games with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott back in his Dallas Cowboys days as an offensive play caller. So a little bit uncharacteristic in terms of what we saw from his running game, but I think you're looking at ways to improve that going into 2026. That's both with addressing the running back room, but also looking at your offensive line, those pieces as well. And then on the defensive side, just continuing to build as a run defense as well. So for me, those two pieces are a big part. And then the last thing would probably be faster starts. The Saints had a minus 93 point differential in the first quarter. That's the lowest that we've seen since 2000 at least, right? The last 25 years. And so because of that, I think that's another thing that you're looking at is the opportunity to start games a little bit faster and then maybe jump out to some early leads.
When you look at that run game, it starts with Alvin Kamara, and his injury impacted things, as well as Kendre Miller getting hurt during that Chicago game. And then Devin Neal getting hurt. So there were a lot of issues there. You mentioned the offensive line, but looking at the contracts of some of these older players like Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill, how are you feeling about that group and what may happen going forward?
Yeah, I think for me, the guys that I could see most likely back in 2026. I mean, Alvin, I think, will be back. I think maybe you just look at addressing his contract. He has a higher contract base salary than he has guaranteed money. And so there's some things you can do with that non-guaranteed money, like convert to incentives, things of that, similar to what they did with Cam Jordan in 2025. But then I think the guys that are maybe more likely to come back on voiding contracts or that don't have another year right now would be Cam and Demario. I think those guys, as heartbeats of your team and heartbeats of your defense, it makes sense to bring them back, and an opportunity to help to see through what it is that you're building right now that both of those guys have expressed so much excitement about. The biggest question marks for me are Taysom Hill and Alontae Taylor. Taysom season ending with another injury. Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis reporting that, telling us that was an AC joint injury. And then you look at Alontae Taylor, who I think is going to get big money to go somewhere and be an outside corner. And it's just the way that NFL contracts scale, playing outside versus playing in the slot. That might be a big time difference maker. That'll be tough for New Orleans to keep him in New Orleans.
Yeah. What about wide receiver Chris Olave? Because he's in the year where he could sign as an extension before next season. So sounds like conversations are going to be had over the summer. Mickey Loomis said he's been talking to his agent, but he really values Olave as a receiver and what he's done here.
Yeah, and I think especially after the year that he just had, and especially the way that he performed when everyone knew the ball was going his way.
Yeah.
We talked about that with Tyler Shuck. That's a big part of what Chris Olave did so well towards the end of the season. The unfortunate blood clot situation that kept him out of that final game. That's not something that I think is going to be a part of those contract negotiations, or that's going to cause any kind of obstacle for Chris Olave. So I think you try to get that contract done sooner rather than later, because the next wide receiver that gets that contract, that impacts you. You want to negotiate the contract, not based on what somebody else gets done. So I think it would be wise to get that done as quickly as possible. And it's obvious to me here that Chris Olave, especially with a rookie quarterback and some opportunities there in terms of fluidity with the salary cap now, or flexibility rather with the salary cap now, it's an opportunity to get him signed, have him as a part of your future moving forward.
When you look at the draft, the Saints know that they're going to be picking 8 overall to start. With that pick, or in general, what would you like to see the Saints address?
Best playmaker available.
Sure.
Find some juice to add to this offense, or potentially over to the defense as well, right? Just as valuable to have somebody that's a playmaker on the defensive side that can get the ball back to your offense as it is to have those playmakers on offense. So with Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, we've been talking about the run game. You've got a couple of really good wide receivers in Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, as well as Ohio State's Carnell Tate. And over on the defensive side, lots of playmakers there as well. I think it makes a lot of sense. And Mickey Loomis kind of alluded to this as well when it comes to the draft approach, that you don't necessarily have to go for a specific position. Just find the player that's going to give you the greatest impact.
Kellen Moore talked a lot about building from the inside out. So potentially, again, that's what his focus was going into last year's draft. We could see somebody offensive line or interior defensive line as well. Here is what Mickey Loomis said he was looking for when you want to address that interior O-line.
Yeah, well, I think that the number one thing there is we've got to stay healthy. Eric McCoy is a really, really good player, but he's been injured the last few years, so we have to examine that. Hey, are we putting him in difficult positions? How can we correct that, not let that happen again? Caesar's a really good player, and yet we've got to get more out of him as well. Obviously, Dylan stepped in after Trevor, the Trevor trade. I thought he did a good job. So we'll evaluate that interior offensive line. But and I think, by the way, we had a number of guys step in. Luke came in and played for Eric and did a good job. But we're going to have to evaluate that position, and we've got some free agents there. So it's going to be an area that we pay a lot of attention to in this offseason.
Going into the 2025 season, Ross, I don't think expectations were extremely high, and the way that things ended gave people here a lot of hope for the future and what's building. So going into the offseason, what are your early expectations for 2026?
Well, they have to be high, don't they? I mean,
much higher.
They got to be much higher,
yeah.
Right? You finished the season 4-1 on the year. You solved, it seems like, the quarterback situation. You have the quarterback and head coach tandem, the most important thing in the NFL. I think you're really looking at, and one of the things that I really stuck out to me that Mickey Loomis said was, they don't want to just win the NFC South and win the division being an 8-9 team. They want to be dominant. And I think that winning the NFC South should be a big time ambition and expectation for this team moving into 2026.
I think it's realistic to say that winning the NFC South is a possibility, especially when you look at the teams and the dynamic there. The winning team, the Carolina Panthers, going 8-9 this season, doesn't tell you that somebody's dominating the pack right now. So it is potentially up for grabs, and I think the Saints getting back to the playoffs would be huge and extremely fun here for everybody in New Orleans. It's been so much fun breaking down this season with you, Ross, and I appreciate everybody joining us all year right here on Saints All Access. That's going to do it for the 2025 season for Ross Jackson, our great producer, Brendan Hassett, who's been doing awesome all year. I'm Erin Summers. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon right here on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network with Saints All Access, presented by Microsoft Copilot plus PC.